JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, March 6th, 8:58 a.m. Talk quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at. Go from there. SP futures giving back all the gains from yesterday. ES minis down 1.2%. Pretty much the gain, the rally from yesterday. No major news or catalyst to speak of causing the pullback. So just a continuation of this volatile environment, and who knows when this all ends. This morning we had weekly jobless claims come in actually better than expectations. So 221 claims versus 234 estimates. So less folks looking for jobs, right? Unemployed. I don't know what that looks like for tomorrow, but then you also have trade data, but the trade data is old. It's like from January. So interesting stuff. Yesterday we had markets doing its typical sell-off, or at least what's been typical since the markets hit highs, where we reverse the opening gains. We hit lows at about 10:30, 11:30, and then 11:30 we were at lows. Then at 12 o'clock, news came out that the uh, tariffs on autos was going to be pushed back at least a month. So that kind of put a spark in the market, and then it didn't look back. We broke over 580, and the SP closed up 1%, and then here we are, giving it all back. Just kind of shows us the current environment we're in. So I don't know when this ends, and it's like I mean, not a snowball running downhill, but it just feels like momentum, right? Like the momentum was to the upside, or at least holding the gains, and now it doesn't feel. It feels like it's kind of like waning, right? So, I'm not. I always say not putting my bear suit on, but I think the probability that we start hitting some key levels of support on the SPY, I think they're increasing, right? The 200-day moving average. We haven't been to near the 200-day moving average in over a year and a half. And here it is. And it was only a blip, right? I think it was November of 2023. And then you have to go all the way back to COVID. And that was a long-term amount of time under the 200-day moving average. I'm not saying we're going to revisit that, but I get a little nervous with moving averages, right? That's momentum. That's the trend. Trend is your friend. But who knows? Hopefully we roll that all out. We get a rally, or markets hold their gains, rally into the weekend, and then never don't have to worry about that. But it's like it's like chinks in the armor, right? There's a lot of chinks getting made in the armor, and eventually it's going to break through those chinks, and then the armor is going to break, and we're going to fall. Bad analogies, but these are just things you do this for a while. Some of these things it's like you see it coming, like a deer in headlights. All right. Take a look at the U.S. dollar, down 3% this week. And some of that's a function of what the other governments are doing. We see what happened with Germany. Their spending's going up. So, yeah, and then China market's actually doing halfway decent. So you have that kind of backdrop. But anyway, so on the SPY, put on the watch list, 575. That's been a key support. We broke that yesterday. Got some hedge puts. We're right there right now, 575 and change right now on the SPY. So that's a big spot, support resistance. Look at down 569 is that 200-day moving average. Don't want to see it close below that today. And then you go back to October, 563 on the SPY. Those would be big spots that I'd be watching if we do have further weakness here today. And then 10 o'clock, we have the GDP Now update. So the GDP Now comes out after, I guess, data. The next update, I think, is not till March 17th. So today at 10 a.m., they're going to release their next update. They had one on Monday. They had one last Friday. The last Friday was the first time it was negative 1.5% or so. Then Mondays was down negative 2.8%. And supposedly this is live, right? Because I always talk about GDP. It's a backward looking indicator, right? It's 3 months worth of backward data when we get the GDP for first quarter. By then we'll be into the second quarter, right? But we'll get the data for the first quarter. So it's backward looking. So the GDP now from the Atlanta Fed is supposed to give you current color to the possible GDP read number. So it's more now. That's why they call it GDP now, as opposed to being a historical number. But certainly, I mean, if it's negative 3.5, negative 4%, I mean, I don't know. It would not be. They'll definitely be selling pressure. So, and then we have the jobs report tomorrow. Would not be surprised to see that negative. And it's kind of like a half glass full, glass half full, glass half empty situation. Because if it is negative and weaker than expected, it's like the odds of the Fed starting to cut rates or being a little more aggressive probably start to ratchet up, and then maybe we get the Fed put, right? So those kind of things going on. I keep putting on to watch the last couple of days. Small can become big in this environment, and big can become small. So, not saying I'm not an investment advisor, not here to give advice or what have you, but you see a lot of times people are used to things just going up. Especially some of those momentum names, Planter, a lot of names over the years, especially Hims and Hers, which is all the way up to 78 bucks. It's like they're just used to it. Buy the dip, and then one time you're in huge, and and the markets don't cooperate, don't do the normal thing, you get decimated. So definitely environment, at least for me, I'm going to keep things small, looking for spec positions on weekly basis with short expirations. And then I'm not here to time a bottom, so I'm not going to sit here and start loading on out of money calls for some of the names, but certainly nibbling on some names that I like if we do look to be bottom, especially 575 here on the SPY. If we can hold that today and tomorrow, I think that'll bode well. All right, so that's the overall market. So now individual names. First, Arista Networks was gapping on the overnight session Wednesday into Thursday. I'm like, wow, this is great. We're going to get over $90. It had an upgrade yesterday morning. I'm like, wow, even better news. And then the stock opened in the green and then started to give back the gains. Didn't want to be in a spot where I lost a profit, so I closed out, locked the rest of the calls in. Uh, of course, as the market reversed at the noon hour, Arista was hitting the highs of the session into the close. I'm like, kicking myself. But then, sure enough, we have this pullback, and Arista's the calls are going to get decimated at the open. So definitely a name I'll continue to look for opportunities to play as like a hedge, not a hedge, like a spec call. If markets find a bid and we rally today, especially we have Broadcom earnings after the close. So if Broadcom can kind of get a sigh of relief for the semi names, Arista could be well into the 90s. So that's Arista Network. With the market, 575 on the SPY was breaking. I think we got down to 573. I was looking for hedge positions. I was looking at, of course, Visa and JP Morgan, but then Goldman Spectacular, which I've been watching, it looked to be weaker than JP Morgan. So I went and got some spec puts. Sure enough, the tariff news comes out at noon hour, and it embarked on a rally from 576 all the way up to 593 close. I still like this one for downside. It's given back most of its gains from yesterday. If it breaks under 576 today, I might look for some more spec lotto puts there. And then other names, more long term. And even if the market finds a bid, I think Ralph Lauren's a name that it reminds me of what Deckers looked back in December and January. Deck was at 170 after its earnings, and it's down to 130 now. I'm not saying Ralph Lauren's going to have a massive move, but it certainly looks susceptible. It's under its 50-day moving average. The unfortunate thing is the liquidity on the calls and puts are the option market is not very liquid on Ralph Lauren. So tough to get an entry. The worst part about getting an entry is like you can get an entry, but then you got to worry about the exit, right? And spreads are wide, so the market makers play their games, and they're gonna win, right? They're gonna get you to buy the ask and sell the bid, right? So tough one. So, but if I see an opportunity, I'll continue to watch that one for an opportunity. Same with Intuit. Intuit was down at 601 at about 11:30, gave back the gains from its upgrade yesterday, and then embarked on its own rally, closing up 3%. If it gives back the gains today, 601 maybe, and then I'll look to get some spec lotto puts or maybe even puts into next week. And then flip side here, Lemonade. It held its 50-day moving average fourth session in a row. If the market's, it looks like it's ready to squeeze, just waiting for the market signal, right? So I'll wait for it to break over $40, and then maybe I'll look for some strikes, some more strikes, maybe some Aprils. They didn't add the Aprils above 50. Maybe they do that today or to overnight. And then last but not least, with the market rallying in the afternoon, I was looking for a position just in case we had continuation. I keep looking at Caterpillar and URI, which I think are oversold. Just because they're oversold doesn't mean, it's like catching a falling knife, right? They can keep hitting more lows. Still like Caterpillar. If the market finds footing here, GDP now, maybe it reverses into positive at 10 o'clock today. Could be a name. It won't take much for Caterpillar to trade over 350. So that's kind of why I like the spec calls there. I think that's it, folks. Asia, China markets. Look at Baidu, and as much as I want to trust Baidu for a move, it's difficult, right? So it's a gapped higher here this morning. It's at $93. It seems like every time it looks like it's ready to break out, gives it back. So I'll probably pass on that. And then Roku, which had its most bearish analyst upgrade the stock on Tuesday, and then it rallied again yesterday. And here it is. It looks interesting. If the market does find some footing, maybe I'll be back in Roku. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back. Rock and roll.